All right, good morning. It's the Monday Morning Show. Today on the show, we have a very special guest, actor and comedian Preston Simpson. How's it going?
Oh, doing very well. How about yourself?
Good. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah, man. It's great to be on, and I'm down in beautiful Cape Cod with the snow surrounding me, so you got me trapped in a cabin.
yeah, we just got a lot of snow.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'd like to start off by asking you, how did you get started in comedy?
Well, about 18 years ago, after doing theater for many, many years, I was always a class clown, and people had always said I was funny, so I decided, went back to New York and just started doing stand-up. Did a workshop, worked out my first 7 minutes, and then, you send out your tape. At that time, it was a VHS, and we did a nice tape at Caroline's, and started getting work through some of the local bookers and doing open mics and doing bringer shows. Then I started doing the road. And in fact, one of the first shows I did was in Pittsburgh, opening for Harlan Williams.
Oh.
I sent a 10-minute tape to the booker, and he called me and said, "Hey, you're really funny. Are you open next week?" And I was like, "Well, I don't know." That time I had like 20 minutes of material. And he said, "I want you to open for Harlan, and it's like a 35-minute shows. It'll be 8 shows. We can only pay like $900 and a hotel room." And I said, "Well, let me just see if I can clear my calendar." And I was like, "Ah!" So I took the gig, and being that I was originally from that area, I came up with another bunch of material just because I had to, and I talked about the Steelers and the coaches, and it was a big success, and it was a great learning curve.
Yeah. Okay, so who were your biggest influences?
Oh, geez, probably like everybody early on, George Carlin, Richard Pryor. My father was a big fan. He actually did stand up earlier in his life, and he had a show in the Pittsburgh area. So as a kid, I used to go see, he had it was a 3-person comedy show where they did sort of sketch comedy and characters. So I was exposed to it early on, and he used to always play a lot of the old Bill Cosby, which I know now is not cool to say, but
yeah,
certainly was influenced by Bill Cosby's comedy. Forget his personal life. He did some tremendous work early on. And we used to listen to those records together, and my father was one of those passionate people that would, describe it and break it down. And then I was always, one of 6 kids, middle child, wanted attention, so I found that comedy was a good way to get that.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
And I think it's important that you find what works for you. I don't like to make fun of other people. I try to make fun of myself. And in our comedy, our mission is, to do stuff that's funny to everybody, but not too offensive.
Okay, yeah, that kind of blends into my next question about how did you develop your style of comedy?
Well, I think the only way to really do it properly is, write about what you know, what you feel. Some exercises that I have learned in workshops and ones that I do when I offer workshops is to first, get real and honest about what it is that pisses you off or what it is that makes you happy, because those are the things that make things funny. If we study and having, a degree in theater and dance, we studied a lot of that stuff in plays, but it translates. Comedy is a structure of finding out what is it that you find funny about the world, or interesting, or odd, or confusing, and that is where you find the jokes.
Yeah.
And I also have a lot of character-driven stuff, because I was always one that, did a lot of different characters and was very good with accents, and I speak fluent German, lived in Germany, so I have some jokes about my experience living in a foreign country. So again, your comedy comes out of your world. I mean, I'm 6'3", 245 pounds. I'm not going to do jokes about what it's like to be small.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You have to, if you're a heavy-set person, then you can make jokes about being fat. But if you're not fat, it usually doesn't work that you can tell the jokes about being fat.
Yeah. Okay, I also read that you've done some acting.
Yes.
What was your first acting role?
Well, my first acting role was actually in 8th grade. And that's what got me into this whole thing. I was playing Santa Claus, and Santa Claus is coming to town, and we went to a state hospital, and I had such a great kick out of these folks who were mentally challenged and institutionalized for life who believed that I was Santa Claus. I mean, I can literally still see this kid who was probably a kid. He was probably 27, but he was in the state of a 13-year-old and maybe a 9-year-old. And he was shaking with excitement, and he was like, Santa, Santa! You know, and he believed that I was Santa Claus. And I think making people believe that you're something else was what really got me into acting, and then the rest of it, you know, comes later when you realize it's not, you know, just that. There's a lot of challenges to doing it.
Yep. And so you've done some TV shows and some movies.
Yep.
Any favorites?
You know, I'll say probably the two favorite things that I did in entertainment was early on. The first thing that I ever did right out of college was Sesame Street Live.
Yeah. And
I say that because, you know, you were in an arena with 17,000 screaming kids, and you're their favorite character, and they are a tough crowd, because if you don't do what they expect you to do as that character, they let you know, you know.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, they're also the most rewarding, because just bringing that joy to kids who haven't been, you know, they just haven't been down the road of being tainted, and they just absolutely loved it. And I think the other thing was I was one of the more odd things is I was in the suit as Godzilla, Baby Godzilla, in the movie Godzilla, and that was challenging for completely different reasons. It was my first time on a big movie set. I learned an awful lot, and learned a lot about cameras, camera angles, and how to portray. You know, basically, I'm in a giant suit making this baby dinosaur look real, and that was a good experience, I have to say.
So yes, how did you get that role? You just
well, that's a funny story. I had lived in Germany. I was artistic director for a couple of places out in Germany, and I was coming back to California to get some stuff from my ex-wife, and I had some stuff in storage. My brother is a big-time stuntman out there, and he had said to me, "Hey, they're holding an audition tomorrow for one more guy to be in the Baby Godzilla suit. Are you interested?" And I just came back from a divorce in Germany. I was heading my way back to New York. I was going to spend some time with family out west. So I said, yeah, I'll go down and audition. What the hell? The money was incredibly good. I was already in Screen Actors Guild, so I went around, and my brother threw all the stilts that they were working with, and I, you know, being one of four boys, I competed with him and did very well. I had just been doing, you know, stuff that was very similar to that. I had been in this show called Starlight Express. So my balance on something was good. And at any rate, when I finished, turned around, and there was a group of people standing there, some guy had a camera. And then my brother introduced me to the guy who was the creator of the suits. And he said, "This is Patrick. This is my brother." And I said, "Yes, Patrick, I'm here to audition for the Godzilla thing." And he said, "Yes, we already got, we want you to do it. We sent everyone else on. You are going to be the sexy Babyzilla." He has an accent, obviously. And so it's one of those weird stories. That's how I got the gig.
Yeah,
and did it for 6 months, yeah.
Okay, so now can you tell us a little bit about Flapjack Comedy Productions?
Absolutely. So having been moved back to New York, I was there for the last 13 to 14 years, something like that. And 3 years ago, my wife and I moved here to the Cape. I'd been doing a lot of commercials and some, you know, a lot of day players, and day players, you know, being, say, a detective on Blue Bloods, or a German guy on Pan Am, and, you know, Uncle Bill on 30 Rock. So in a lot of commercials, and, you know, not really going exactly where I wanted it to go, and in terms of the acting, but still doing the stand-up and really enjoying that. We decided to sell our place in New York and move here for a lifestyle change, now that we're both in our 50s. And once I got here, I did a couple of comedy shows and saw that there was a need on the Cape for stand-up. And a lot of people were asking me to do fundraisers. And after I've done a number, people were like, wow, this is great. And I kept bringing down all these wonderful Boston comics, and there's so many of them that I decided to start a production company. And it's going to be a year this month that we've been doing comedy on the Cape, and it's been going really great. We're feeling that, why not bring the comedy to the Cape rather than have people in the Cape go up to Boston and New York. And so far, it's been a great success.
Yeah.
And we're going to continue to build it. In fact, we have a show this Saturday, which is a fundraiser for the homeless. Every year we do some give backs. And this one we did last year. We did the homeless fundraiser for the homeless, not hopeless. This year we're doing it for the one that just started in Falmouth. And a good friend of mine, Paul Rifkin, has been spearheading that. So we feel good about doing those kinds of things, and why not do comedy as well? Bring people into a room, have them laughing, and they're raising money for a good cause.
Yeah, definitely. And people can go to your website, flapjackcomedyproductions.com.
Or flapjackcomedy.com. We own both those websites just because you have to.
Okay.
But flapjackcomedy.com is where you'll find our upcoming shows, and you'll see it on Eventbrite. It's in all the calendars, and it's going to be a really good show. We have a couple guys back by popular demand. If you haven't seen Tom Dustin, one of the funniest guys I've seen in forever, and this is coming from the comic, Mike Whitman and Alvin David. They're very funny and just been very well received. Sometimes those guys will come into the rotation, so two of these guys were here probably about 10 months ago, and people keep asking me, when's Tom Dustin, when's Mike Whitman coming back? And so this is the weekend.
Yeah, no, I think it's good with what you said about having some comedy besides going to Boston, because even around here around Taunton, I've noticed there's hardly any place to get see any comedy shows.
Yep.
So it seems like there's a lack of comedy away from the city.
Yeah, no, we're using different locations all on the Cape, but eventually we want a permanent home here. Presently, we've been doing shows in Falmouth, Sandwich, Hyannis, and eventually we want to get a place in Dennis as well. So, that's my goal: build the comedy down here on the Cape.
Yeah. Okay. Well, before I let you go, I'd like to ask you two questions from our fans. We ask people to send us emails with some questions.
Yeah.
And I have an email from Phyllis. I think it's Thornley. Phyllis writes, when you first started doing stand-up, did you get a lot of boos, and did people yell at you? Because that's what happens to me. It's kind of funny, but
yeah,
I guess she's asking, did you have a hard time when you first started?
Well, I'll be honest. When I first started, having a lot of theatrical background, I had some coaching. I had some success for the first little bit, but there's not a single person I know doing stand-up who doesn't get, boos or have at least jokes fall flat on their face. And my first experience was I was trying to stretch a little bit, so I went to an open mic. Now, the open mic had folk singing, guitar playing as well, and there was some spoken word, and there was some comedy. So I was one of the people doing some comedy, and I was trying out something new. And my whole routine was based on handicapped people. So not something that liberal people in a comedy open mic would be open to. And I was making fun of the fact that, if you have, a handicapped parking spot, does it have to be at the front of the store? Because the guy's got a van and he's in a wheelchair. Can't he park in the back? And then I think I said something really ridiculous, or how about go around the back and that's where all the other vegetables go in? And people were like, boo! And I was like, okay, so I learned a lesson.
Yeah.
And so at that point I had lost them, but I kept going, and you have to do that. You've got to learn. I think one of the biggest things for early comics is to learn to live in the silence. Because just because they're being quiet, it might just be to set up part of the joke and stay with it. And confidence is probably the most important.
Yep. Okay. We have one more email from Casey Parquet. Casey writes, who was the best person you have worked with, and who was the worst?
Wow, that's kind of not that's hard to say. Well, I've worked with so many.
Yeah.
You know, I would say the best two people that I've worked with up in this area right now are Mike Whitman and Dave Radigan. And that's because they both are funny, and they've been very helpful in helping me build this comedy business, with, you know, putting me in touch with other comics, being able to hire the good guys and see their tapes.
Yeah.
And the worst, I don't like to say negative things about people.
Yeah.
But I did have, there's a gentleman in, I'm not sure exactly where he is, James Goff is a comedian who took offense to my comedy, something that I did, and then he kind of went ballistic for no reason, about, you know, me doing something on stage. I do a bit where I bring my pants way down low, and I'm a big, tall, white guy, and I say how this looks cool in a black man, but goofy on me, and he got all offended. And that's probably the only bad experience I've ever had, but I think, you know, he's probably matured since then and realized that comedy is comedy. I'm not making fun of him. I'm making fun of myself, as I said.
Yeah.
I'm self-deprecating. I'm paying him a compliment. That's the only real bad experience, but to me, that's water over the dam. I think anybody who gets up on stage and tries comedy needs to be applauded, because it's one of the toughest things you can do.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. I think that's all the questions I had for you. But
Fantastic.
Yeah. So thanks for coming on the show, and I'll make sure people can go to flapjackcomedy.com.
Yep.
And check
and
out.
I'll tell you what, for having us on, if you want to give away 2 free tickets on your show, you can just have someone call into you, and then you can forward me the name, and we'll give away 2 tickets to this Saturday's fundraiser, which is in Hyannis.
Okay, great. Okay, great.
All right.
And
sounds good.
All right, yeah. So you said next Saturday in Hyannis, and
February 13th, 8 p.m. at the Resort and Conference Center, 35 Scudder Avenue.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So thanks a lot, and hopefully we can talk to you again sometime.
That sounds great, Sean. Anytime you want.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.